Hi guys, welcome to this episode of In the Mess, and today we're going to do a first day in out of hours. So, we've got a couple of familiar faces here. Should we start, just for anyone who's not seen us before, who are you guys?
So I'm Kirsty, and I am one of the clinical fellows in critical care at Aberdeen Royal Infirmary.
And I'm Andrew. I am currently a SHO locum and equivalent to kind of FY4. So I've been in a variety of different specialties. At the moment, acute medicine though.
So you've both done quite a few night shifts, huh?
Yeah, I think if you look at yeah.
So why don't people like night shifts? What is it about them?
So I think firstly, we can kind of tease that apart, that the personal issues, nobody wants to be awake at night. It's not a normal thing for people to get used to, but I think it's definitely something that if you embrace it and you start to figure out your own routine, definitely gets much easier. And I think, my top tips for that would be buy an eye mask. That's my lifesaver probably, and a blackout blind as well. Set yourself up well, that it means that before your night shift, when it is sunny outside, you can actually get a good sleep.
Yeah, there's no point in sort of pussyfooting around this one. Like, let's get straight into it. Night shift sleep hygiene. That's what we really need to talk about. That's how you get through it, isn't it? So eye mask, I completely agree. Blackout blinds. Oh, blackout blinds. Got blackout blinds partway through my FY1. It was amazing, right? And just being able to sleep will come more naturally to some folk than others, right? Do you have any ways you sleep?
I sleep like a log. I have no issues whatsoever.
I don't like you anymore.
I'm one of those people that I can sleep just about anywhere at any time. You can have all the lights on, the sun blaring through, and I can still put my head down and get to sleep. So for me, I love night shifts. I really don't have an issue with the sleep that I know that some people do. I find that usually the middle of the second night, I'm usually starting to flag a bit because I've lost a bit of my kind of energy reserve that I had on the first night. And I don't sleep for as long between the shifts. It's usually only about 6 hours instead of what I'd normally hope for about 8.
We do your best.
Yeah,
we've done an extra video on how to prepare for night shift, which is definitely worth a watch. But just really think about your sleep. That is the key thing. You've got to. If you're not awake, you're no use to anyone, are you? But what else is weird about nights? There's a lot of things, right?
You don't have the same support, I guess, on a night shift. Each of the teams that are looking after the patient during the day, all the consultants, the registrars who know the patients inside out, have all gone home. And yes, at the end of a telephone, but they're most likely asleep. And if you can manage stuff, in the hospital yourself, then that's kind of what you want to be doing. So it can sometimes feel a little bit daunting. You feel like you've got kind of the whole responsibility of all the ward, all the patients are on your shoulders. And I think that can be quite a daunting prospect.
It's more patients often, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of off of that as well. You are the person who for the first time is seeing a patient, most likely when they're not well. But I think with that comes with the great opportunity to do, the ABCDE assessment. You get to see a lot of patients overnight who you normally wouldn't be exposed to. Either they're from a different specialty or, you really get hands-on experience of dealing with sick people. So I think that's something you really have to embrace. And I think make the most of that night shift setup. It's not people that you're working with every day, but I think with that comes, knowing the numbers of the people you should call, knowing the structure of who's next as to phone a friend is really, really helpful.
So there's a lot of other job roles around in most units, people who essentially live on nights, isn't it? Ones that come to mind are the night nurse practitioners that are in a lot of units. A lot of trusts have them. They're great. Right? They're just great.
They're the lifesavers. If you've got these really experienced team members around you, utilize them. If you know you've got a patient who's not well, call them. They'll come. They'll help you with, that VBG, getting that cannula in, everything that kind of helps you take control of what can be quite a scary situation. They'll do the fluid reviews when you're feeling a bit overwhelmed. And I think, asking those people for help, you'll gain so much more from it. And at the same time, if there's something you think you kind of aren't so good at, they're the first people to say, you can come with me, let me show you my tips and tricks that they use. So I think overnight, there's also a really great opportunity to learn that during the day when there's lots of staff members there that you can sometimes miss out on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They're a great resource. They've been doing the job many of them for a long time, and certainly done far more night shifts than kind of any of us will ever do probably in our lives. And so, they work with all the junior doctors. They know what kind of a position we're in when we first start. They know the kind of the common kind of pitfalls that we'll fall into, and most of them are absolutely fantastic at just making sure and touching base with you through the night, making sure that you're doing okay, if there's anything that they can help with. So yeah, absolutely.
We've talked a little bit there about sort of the support network within a hospital. I'm very much the old person at this table.
You're the one at home in bed.
I sit at home.
I'm terrified to call.
Well, yeah, but why? Why do you think people are scared to call?
I think people really doubt themselves. I know that sometimes I'll think, but is this person sick enough, or am I making this up? Am I making the right judgment call? But I think the biggest thing I would say is that if you can make a differential, if you have an idea, what's your impression? I was always taught that was the biggest thing to say, gather your assessment, but then take a guess, what do you think that is? And try and make it an educated one. And if you call someone for help, you explain what you've done and you give them your plan. No one can ever be angry at you for that. I think ultimately we're there for the patients and we are there for safety. And if you're waking them up with, something that seems a good reason for waking them up, no one's going to, berate you down the phone for that.
I would totally rather know than have someone struggling. We've said that in quite a lot of our first day in videos now, and it's going to be a theme. If in doubt, call us. Okay, so that's a little bit about who's around and who's, like me, not around. What does your night look like? Different, right? Completely different to days.
Yeah, really different. So I think the first thing is you'll always start with some form of handover. And in most hospitals that I've been in most jobs, that can be quite a collective thing. So there might be multiple people there handing over. I always think it's really good to kind of check the room, see who's around you, who's with you, and make note of those all important numbers. What I've found is the jobs that you get handed over, it's really good if you can kind of prioritize what's essential for that night. And off the top of that, is there any jobs that you can delegate to other members of the team? Is there bloods that you could put on for kind of some of the auxiliary nurses to do throughout the night to help balance out your jobs? I think you also have to really be aware that you probably won't get handed over some patients who are sick. So I always find once the handover's finished, the best thing to do is go up to the wards that you're covering. And what I do is I like to do a little friendly social walk. I'll write my number on the whiteboard or whatever kind of board is near the nurse's station, because sometimes it could be that the ASCOM that you're carrying is not the right number that they have for you. I'll always say, my name's Kirsty. If you need anything, just, give me a call. And I think it's good because nurses have a fifth sense, seven sense, actually. We've all got five.
How many senses do we have, Kirsty?
But yeah, they have that seventh sense. They know the patients, and sometimes what the nurses
No, I'm going to interrupt. What's the sixth sense that we're jumping to seven? What is the
sixth? Should we just restart that together?
I'm intrigued. Yeah.
No, but the nurses.
They've got two sixth senses.
Two sixth senses.
They're that
will
good.
Go with that.
They're that good. But no, the nurses I always find are your savior. They will have that kind of in the know about the patients that, your colleague might have been quite rushed handing over to you. They might not know everything about the state of the ward. So it's good to just check in with the patient who's handed over to you and then to the nurses too. And I also think it's really good to ask them if they've got non-urgent jobs, do they want to put that on a list for me? And I'll say, by the way, the next time I'll be back is 2 hours from now, and keep good contact with the ward you're covering.
What about if you get handed over a job that you think, is the whole this isn't a night shift job thing? What's your feelings on that?
It's always difficult when someone hands over a job from the day team for the night team to do, and sometimes you won't have had a kind of chance to kind of question it then and there at the time. Sometimes you'll just have it kind of dropped on your plate, and what one person's priority might be maybe isn't a priority to someone else. I think if it's been a quiet night and there's absolutely nothing else happening, then perhaps I might kind of help out and do that. But equally, if I'm rushed off my feet, there's things that can wait for the day team to sort. You've got the depth of numbers of staff and experience during days. So a lot of the kind of more minor jobs can wait until the morning.
Yeah. So just you're a fresh set of eyes. You've come in. You've had a sleep. These people have been looking after these patients all day, haven't they? And they can sometimes go, "Oh, this needs done," and you go.
It's one of those things like prepping somebody's discharge documentation for the next day for a patient you've never met before in a specialty of patients you don't look after isn't really an appropriate handover the majority of times, and it's probably something that's best done by the team that have been looking after that patient.
Or if not, ask why. Sometimes they might be getting an 8 o'clock ambulance, you know, and the day guys haven't got to that, you know, and that's pretty much the only reason I can think of why you should be writing a discharge letter overnight, right?
Hence most of the time, yeah. There's always an exception to every rule, but yeah.
Okay. So any common pitfalls, any common hiccups you guys have seen? You guys have been doing nights a while now. The new guys, they're recently in. Anything you've seen them struggle with?
So I think it's firstly, it seems like something you'd all think of, but the structure of the hospital changes overnight. So, you know, in the day, if you put an x-ray on, that'll just happen. So sometimes it's important to know overnight who you need to contact. You have to bleep that radiographer because sometimes that's not really clear. And I think that means that throughout the night, that kind of flow and movement to keep you going and keep you ticking off tasks, you can kind of drop the gun a little bit if you don't know how systems work overnight.
The admin. It's the inevitable problem, isn't it? Anything you've spotted?
Make sure you come prepared. The folk that I've worked with all take the mick out of me for the fact that I'll rock up to the start of a night shift with like a full, like one of those reusable carrier bags filled with like a whole load of different foods.
You also come with like a stack of pasta.
I'll have been to the supermarket usually just before I've come onto shift, and I'll have gone round and I'll have probably about 4 different dinner options for the night, because you never know. Like, people laugh at it, but you never know like how I'm going to feel. Like sometimes I want a hot meal. Sometimes actually all I want is to just, you know, snack on, you know, some cookies and, you know, a coffee, and, you know, sometimes you want some fruit. And so I usually kind of bring a selection of like different types of food, and
Rolls out the picnic blanket, the silver platters are out. Andrew on night shift. It's lovely. It's a lovely thought.
It's Jenny, it gets me through though. And one thing you do need to remember is that not every hospital is going to have canteen facilities or, you know, vending machines or anything that's open overnight. So you do need to quite often bring your own food and drink with you, such that you can sustain yourself through the night. You know, if you're having, you know, a hypo in the middle of the night because you forgot to bring your lunch
your
with
own
you,
medical
you're not going to be any use.
You're no use to anyone if you're not looking after
Yeah.
yourself. And I know I eat so much. I eat a lot normally, but I eat so much on nights. Like, you go one of two ways. You either eat nothing or everything, don't you? And it's just, stuff your face.
Yeah. But again, bringing kind of healthy options as well, so that you're not left with, you know, just the junk food, because it's very easy to just keep eating that. But, you know, if you've got some fruit there, or if you've got some kind of, you know, slower burning carbs, then
Absolutely. Look after yourself, eh? Look after yourself. So, what about sleeping on night shifts?
yeah, sleeping on night shifts can be a bit of a controversial topic. I think, first of all, different trusts have different opinions on what is acceptable or not. Different wards will have opinions on what is acceptable or not. There will be places and times that you need to get rest overnight. And it does get to a point sometimes that if you are so exhausted, you're not even thinking straight and can't keep your eyes closed, you probably are going to be a better doctor for the rest of the night if you've closed your eyes and had a quick kind of 10-minute power nap.
20-minute power nap on your 2 half-an-hour breaks that you are allocated for a 12 and a half hour night shift, which most of them are. Yours to do with what you want as long as you're contactable.
Exactly.
And that's it. The main point is being contactable. So if I am ever kind of going to put my head down, I tend not to kind of go and take an on-call room or anything like that. I will usually just put my head down on the table in the doctor's office, and I'll let the nursing staff know where I am. And so I would much rather, if I'm going to put my head down, I want the nursing staff to know that, you know, I'm here to work at the end of the day. So just because I've got my head down doesn't mean that I'm not kind of, you know, contactable. Like, wake me up. I'd much rather know, because
Let them know you're struggling. It's not the norm. Like, I wouldn't expect to sleep on night shifts, you know, when you're going in, but sometimes everyone has problems, right? You know, everyone
and
has a
it's all
problem.
about, like you've said, it's all about your location. So where are you going to do it? And it's all about risk. You know, if it's a night where you've got a lot of sick patients, that's not the time. But as long as you're contactable and you're somewhere nearby, we can understand sometimes that if it's needed, then sometimes you have to do that.
And I would say have both of those points. Let the nursing staff know where you are as well as what number you're on. Because the last thing you want is for the nursing staff to have been calling you time and time again and you be sleeping through the alarm. Yeah. At least if they know where you are, they can come and you know, wake you up in person. So just make sure they've got all the details they need to get in touch with you if you do decide to have a quick nap.
I think that's been really good, guys. I think that's probably more than enough for everyone. So thanks very much. I'm sure everyone will find that really useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and drop us a comment if there's anything you think you'd like us to cover.